Hi, welcome to today's Daf Yomi, Bava Metzia Daf 106 on B. Just following up on the last Daf, and let the owner say to him, granted that I was not worthy of a great miracle, but a small miracle I was worthy. The Rav concludes, indeed this is difficult. It is taught in one bright that with regard to when he cultivates a field, the first and second time he plants, Pa'am Roshana Ushniya Zoya. Based on the common context of the statement, Rashi explains that it refers to one who planted a field that was then consumed by locusts or struck by some other disease. According to this approach, there's a difference between the case of this brighter and that addressed by Reish Lakish later in this discussion. Conversely, the Ramban and the Rashba cites a Tosefta that indicates that this dispute also refers to one whose planting failed to sprout. In the case of the Tosefta, though, the field was not leased with the intention to cultivate it for a single year. Rather, it was leased for several years and planted in consecutive years without success. See the commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch. The field again, if the cultivar is destroyed by some mishap, but the third time he is not required to plant it again. As it is taught in another brighter, then on the third occasion he must plant it in the field again, but again after the fourth time the crops are destroyed. He is not required to plant it again. These two brighter appear to contradict one another. They will explain. This is not difficult. This brighter is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, whereas that brighter is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. The Gemara clarifies. This brighter is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who says that presumptive state is established by two occasions, while that brighter is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, who says that presumptive state is established by three occasions. So what's the footnote? This disagreement between Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is a general dispute that applies to several areas of halacha. The issue at stake is how many times an event must transpire in order to create a presumption that it will remain or continue to occur in that way. The Gemara does not provide a general ruling, but in certain cases it rules in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, while in others the halacha follows Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. With regard to the present issue as well, some rule in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, due to similarity between this halacha and the other instances when the halacha follows his views to the meaning, whereas others claim that the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Reish Lakish said they taught that a cultivar plants a limited number of times, only if he planted the field and it sprouted and locusts consume the crops. But if he planted and the crops did not sprout at all, the landowner can say to him, you should continue planting it on all the days that are fit for planting. What does that mean? Zora Kamal Palmim. One who accepts upon himself the duty to plant a field must continue to plant as long as the land in that location is suitable for planting, even if it fails to yield a crop numerous times. This is because the consensus among the authorities is that the dispute between Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and Shimon ben Gamliel is irrelevant to this case, as the halacha follows Reish Lakish. This halacha applies only to a contractor, but a tenant farmer can purchase the produce he owes the owner for his tenancy on the market. Say for Mishpatim, he would 8.5 Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 22.2, and then the comment of Ramah, see the Hagor there. The Gemara, and when does the period of planting last? And until when does the period of planting last? The Gemara answers, Rav Papa said, until such time that sharecroppers come in from the field, and the stars of Pallades, what's that? There's a picture here. If it is assumed that workers return from their work around sunset, as claimed by Tosfos, the star close to Pallades would be above their heads, i.e. at its highest point in the sky at the zenith of the meridian, toward the end of the month of Shvat, or according to the solar calendar at the end of February. Even Rabbi Shimon, who takes the most lenient approach, agrees that the planting season already ended by the end of Tevet. Vision over their heads. Rashi and Tosfos dispute the details of this halacha. Although they are in agreement with regard to the basic interpretation that it refers to a portion of one of the constellations as overhead at a certain time of day. In contrast, by Yosef Tuv Elam explains, based on the Gemara elsewhere in Brachos 58b, that Kima is a sign of the rainy season in the zodiac, whereas Kesel is that of the summer. Consequently, the statement Kima is positioned over the heads means that this is in the middle of winter, which according to his calculation is the 22nd of Tevet, which occurs roughly during the month of Shavat. The Gemara raises an objection to this from a Baita that discusses the verse. While the earth remains, planting and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. In Genesis 8:22, the Baita interprets this verse as referring to 6 seasons of the year. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says in the name of Rabbi Meir. And similarly, Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh would say, in accordance with this statement, the second half of Tishrei, all of Mer Cheshvan, and the first half of Kislev are days of planting. The second half of Kislev, all of Tevet, and the first of Shavat are the winter days. The second half of Shavat, all of Adar, and the first half of Nisan are a period of cold. And the second half of Nisan, all of Iyar, and the first half of Sivan, are the harvest period. The second half of Sivan, all of Tammuz, and half of Av are the summer season, while the second half of Av, all of Elul, and the first of Tishrei are the season of heat. The Brisa adds, Rabbi Yehuda would divide the year into these 6 seasons, but he counts from the beginning of Tishrei rather than from the middle. And Shimon counts from Marcheshvan, so Marcheshvan and Kislev constitute the season of planting, and so on. The Gemara states the objection: who is the most lenient of them all? Man Meikel Bechul. This leniency does not refer to the repeated planting of an unsuccessful cultivator, but to a regular cultivator who undertook to plant a field. Rabbi Shimon maintains that the time for planting extends until the end of Kislev, and he cannot be removed from the field if he delayed planting until this date. And that's from the Raavad. In that period of planting occurs at the late time of the year, is Rabbi Shimon, and even he did not say that the planting season extends that far to the time when blade is above their heads. The Gemara responds that is not difficult, as it is referring to a cultivator who accepted from the owner of the planting of early crops, while that case involved a cultivator who accepted from the owner the planting of late crops performed at a much later date. The Mishnah teaches, Rabbi Yehuda says, if the cultivator received it from the owner for a fixed sum of money, whether a regional disaster occurred or not, he does not subtract the produce he owes as part of his tenancy. The Gemara relates, there was a certain man who received land to plant garlic on the bank of the river Malka Sava. This river, named elsewhere simply Malka River, see Gittin 73a, was one of the largest canals ever built in Babylonia, connecting the Tigris with Euphrates. It was called the river due to its size, and as it was built by the king, it was named after him. It was used for irrigation as well as for transporting goods and food by boat. Damming such an important waterway was without question a rare event. In exchange for a specified sum of money, the bank of the river Malka Sava became dammed up. The case came before Rava, who said that the cultivator of the river Malka Sava does not usually dam up. Therefore, it is classified as a regional disaster. Go subtract this loss from the payment you owe to the owner. The Gemara continues the story. The rabbi said to Rava, didn't we learn in the Mishnah here, if the cultivator received from the owner for a fixed sum of money, whether this way or that way, i.e. whether a regional disaster occurred or not, does he subtract the produce he owes as part of his tenancy? Rava said to him, there is no one who is concerned for the ruling of Rabbi Yehuda, since it is the minority opinion that is rejected. The Mishnah, Hamkaba Sadem Mechavei Ba'asura Kor Chitum Nashon Malakso Nusin Lo Mitocha Hayucha Chiteha Yafos Lo Yoma Lo Hereini Lo Kech Min Hashuk Ela Nusin Lo Mitocha. In the case of one who receives a field from another to cultivate in return for the payment of 10 kor of wheat per year, and his produce was blighted. So what does that mean? If one receives a tenancy of a field in return for a payment of 10 kor of wheat, and the wheat grew, and the wheat he grew was blighted, he may pay the owner for the produce of the field itself. If good quality wheat grew, he may not pay the owner with other wheat that he bought from the market, but he must pay him from the crop of the field itself. The Ramah adds that this halacha applies only if he kept the conditions of their agreement. But if the owner stipulated the tenant farmer should plant wheat and pay him in barley, the tenant farmer planted barley and it was blighted, he must pay the owner with barley from the market. Similarly, if the sheaves were damaged in the field, or the grapes went bad, he may pay the owner with them, but if the owner stipulated that he may pay him with wine, and the vineyard produced grapes and the wine went sour, the tenant farmer must pay the owner with good quality wine, as stated by Ravashi. That's Ram Sefer Mishpat, Mehochet Yehud, 8-7 Shulchan Aruch, Rosh Mishpat, 23, 1-3. By the crop disease or like, the cultivator gives the owner 10 core of wheat from it, but it does not have to provide him with high quality wheat. If the wheat stalks produced by the field were particularly good stalks of wheat, the cultivator may not say to the owner, I will buy regular wheat from the market, rather than give him from inside the field itself. The Gemara relates, there was a certain man who received land to grow hay in exchange for paying the owner several core of barley. After the field produced hay, the recipient plowed and sowed it with barley, and that barley was blighted. The worker sought to pay the owner from the damaged barley he had cultivated. Rav Chaviva from Surah in the Euphrates sent the following question before Ravina. What is with regard to a case of this kind? Is it considered similar to an instance of if it was blighted, he gives him from inside the field or not? Ravina said to him, is it comparable? There in the Mishnah, the land did not perform its owner's mission, and the cultivator also received blighted produce. Whereas here, the land did perform its owner's mission, and the cultivator took the land for the purpose of growing hay, which it produced. His additional crop of barley was not part of their agreement, and therefore he could not pay his debt with blighted barley. The Gemara relates, there was a certain man who received an orchard from another to cultivate it in exchange for paying the owner 10 barrels of wine, but that wine produced from the orchard's grapes turned sour. And Gehanan thought to say that this is an example of the ruling of the Mishnah, that if it was blighted, he may give him from inside the field. Rashi said to him, is it comparable? There in the Mishnah, the land did not perform its owner's mission, as the crop was blighted, whereas here, the land did perform its owner's mission, as there was nothing wrong with the grapes themselves, and the wine turned sour in the cultivator's possession. The Gemara comments, and Ravashi concedes with regard to grapes that shrunk over the course of their growth, and with regard to a field whose sheaves were blighted, that since the damage occurred to the crop itself, the cultivator can pay his debt from the produce of the field. Mishnah. Hamakaba Sada Mechaveru Lezara Zora Sa'orim Lo Yisra Eno Chitim. Chitim es Ra'ena Sa'orim Rishim Ben Gamliel Oser. Tavura Lo Yisra Eno Kidnis. Kidnis es Ra'ena Tavuya or Rabban Shimon Ben Gamliel Oser. With regard to one who received a field from another in order to plant it with barley, Makaba Lezara Se'orim. According to Rashi, this halacha prohibiting the cultivator from planting wheat instead of barley is limited to a case of tenancy. Since the tenant farmer pays only a set sum to the owner, does not benefit from the change. Therefore, the tenant farmer is not permitted to weaken the field in order to earn more from a crop that was not part of their agreement. However, with regard to a contractor where the owner receives a percentage of the crop, since the owner in the field also benefits from additional produce, the recipient may use a more profitable crop that weakens the field. In accordance with the dictum, let the land be weakened but not his owner. Conversely, the Ramban and others maintain that a contractor also has no right to make any changes, and the owner relies upon his promise to provide specifically barley or wheat. He may not plant it with wheat. One who receives a field to plant barley may not plant wheat in it because wheat weakens the earth more than barley. But if he received a field to plant wheat, he may plant barley. If he received it to plant legumes, he may not plant grain. If he received to plant grain, he may plant legumes. This ruling follows the version of the text of the Mishnah possessed by the Riv and the Rambam. But some authorities reverse halacha concerning legumes and grain, in keeping with the standard version of the text, and the Ramah cites in the Torah. The Ramah also cites a view, and a contractor may even plant a crop that weakens the soil instead of what has initially been agreed upon. And towards others maintain that a contractor cannot even change the crop to one that inflicts less damage to the ground. The Ramban and Maggid Mishnah. In general, the halacha with regard to this issue is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, and not that of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, as is evident from the discussion of the continuation of the Gemara on the next daf. The Rambam Sefer Mishpatim here at 8-9 Shulchan Aruch Hashemit with 24:1 and the comment of the Gemara. And we can defend more than barley growth. But if he receives it in order to plant wheat, he may plant it with barley if he wishes, but Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel forbids it. Similarly, if he receives it to plant it with grain, he may not plant it with legumes. So what's the footnote here? To Vua Makitnis. Based on nature, it would seem that the correct version should read, one receives a field to plant legumes. You may not use it to plant grain. The reason is that certain kinds of grain spoil in which they grow, while the bacteria present in the roots of legumes contribute nitrogen compounds that improve the soil. However, since the sage's definition of legumes includes all kinds of edible seeds, it is possible that the term legume here could refer to species that would have a deleterious effect on the soil more than grains, which would account for the version of the Mishnah possessed by the Riv and the Rambam. As we can feel more than grains do, but if he receives it in order to plant legumes, he may plant it with grain. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel forbids this. The Gemara, Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda said, what is the reason of the ruling of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel? The landowner has apparently suffered no loss in the course of his actions. His reasoning is, as it is written, the remnant of Israel shall do no inquiry, nor speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth. Zephaniah 3:13. In other words, one may not attract from an obligation except upon oneself, even if no one suffers as a result. The Gemara raises an objection to this from the Braita. The bum collection is only for the bum fees, but one does not scrutinize the matter by limiting the allocation of the poor to the exact cost of the meal and no more. And this is not permitted for a poor person to purchase even a strap for a sandal from it, unless he stipulated in the presence of people of the city that he may do as he wishes with the money he receives. This is statement of Rabbi Yaakov, who said in the name of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is lenient. That moves us on to the next Omen. I just finished that. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Meikil. The Meiri suggests that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel rules leniently only if the poor person used a portion of the funds for a small matter, but not if he took the money and did not use it for the permanent meal at all. As he maintains that Jonah is not particular in this regard, this shows that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is not bothered by a change of mind if no harm results. Thank you for listening and wish you all the best. Bye.